Alrighty. So, good evening for anyone who's watching this video. And this tier list might seem familiar, but it's for a different reason. Is it because I'm lazy? I don't think so. I think this is just kind of just like a good starting point for like if you're gonna start restoring stuff because the topic of today's video today, nice, of today's video is ranking which Jordan retros are the easiest to restore and which ones are the worst to restore and the biggest pain to restore. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, just because I put something in the S tier does not mean it's gonna be like, oh, I can do this in my sleep. No, I wish, I wish it was like that. But what I'm saying is that if you start restoring shoes, this is the shoe that you should start practicing on, this model, because those are going to be the easiest. Like if you mess something up, it'll be the easiest to fix. And then once you get confident in one model, you can move on to the next and so on. So without further ado, the first one I'm going to talk about is Jordan 1. Now, the Jordan 1s, if you're just repainting a Jordan 1, it's the only hard part is going to be your prep work of removing the old paint and paint matching because Jordan Brand loves to paint matte. Jordan Brand loves to use paints that aren't exactly the same color as like a red. Let's say like because look, this is red to the eye. In reality, this has red, pink, white. From what I'm looking at just by the image, I can see some fire red in here, you know. And there's a lot of different colors you have to mix in order to get that red specifically. And it's different for every shoe. So this red is not the same as like this red, because this is a darker red, darker tone of red. So now it's going to be different. And then this red on the black toes is going to be a different shade of red too. So overall, Jordan 1s, as annoying as paint matching is, that's going to be your biggest problem. I'm going to put them in S tier for restoring because it's a great starter shoe. They're easy to work on. Sometimes, like if you have a steady hand starting off, which most of you probably won't, you most of the time can tape it off, but once you get used to it, you really don't have to tape off a Jordan 1 when you're repainting it because it'll just come the hand movements and like being able to paint certain panels on a Jordan 1, it'll just be able to be muscle memory after like one or two pairs of working on them. Um, Even just previewing this list, from my experience, that's probably gonna be the only S tier for like easy quote unquote restorations. Next is the Jordan 2. F There's gonna be a lot of F tiers. Um the Jordan 2 is not fun. That's the best that is the worst start for a shoe. Let me just pull up what a Jordan 2 crumbled looks like. It's one of the most it's one of the worst. Oh, this is actually a great example. So the off-white Jordan 2s. Imagine this. This is just for show. Now imagine this actually happening. Look, just like this. You would think all you have to do is swap out the midsole. No, you're wrong. Because there is a there is a plastic panel that is embedded into the rubber outsole that you have to swap as well. So that's great. That's fun because then you have to cut out a donor. You have to first get a donor midsole. So you have to remove the midsole from the plastic part because that's also basically molded into this polyurethane midsole. So then you most likely are going to have to cut this plastic off without damaging the midsole. So that's going to be fun. And then you have to replace the sole itself too, because once you get rid of this, the rubber sole is going to, the plastic part in the middle is going to stay there. So that's even better, you know? Then even that's just I don't I sound like I'm mumbling a lot. It's just because I don't like working on it, the pair twos. From like the three pairs that I've ever worked on, none of them have been smooth experiences. I have never had a good experience with this shoe. Moving on. This is gonna be the next two rankings are gonna be kind of a weird, like, oh, it doesn't make sense, but the explanation should probably help. So Jordan threes, I'm gonna put them in A tier for restoring because when a Jordan three when a Jordan three crumbles, okay, I guess I'm too fast. When a Jordan three crumbles, perfect. This is a perfect example. A Jordan three has the plastic back tabs, right? So those will crack over time. This is annoying because these aren't exactly easy to source unless you know you're in the know with who makes them, who 3D prints them. And even when you find a person that 3D prints them, they're pretty expensive, you know? The back tabs alone are probably around like 50 to 60 bucks, right? And then for our next shoe, it gets even more expensive with these types of plastic parts. The midsole, the midsole swap, Jordan 3 midsole swaps aren't as bad because it's pretty streamlined when it comes to swapping these. Because there's a bunch of donor shoes that you can use. There's other Jordan 3s. There's certain like off I'm not gonna say off-brand Jordans, but like team Jordans that you can use for these. And the midsole repaint is actually pretty. I've repainted up a couple pairs of threes, including black cements. I'm actually repainting some threes right now, and the most annoying part is just stripping the paint off of it. But sole swaps, once you get used to them, they're not as bad on certain shoes. Besides like the two and another one we're gonna get into later on because oh man, I have such a bad experience with the next shoe that's gonna be an F tier. So overall, Jordan 3, it's a more complex shoe. Like I would say, once you get the hang of a Jordan 1, like restoring a Jordan 1, you can move on to a pair of Jordan 3s and you can get that confidence with sole swapping with this shoe because there's a lot less moving parts compared to every other shoe on this list. You know, we'll get into that thing. We'll get into that creature of a shoe later. Next thing, next shoe, Jordan 4. I've worked on a lot of these, both for just repaints and also midsole swaps, and now I'm working on a pair for the back tabs and the wing swaps. If I didn't like this shoe, I'd go straight to F tier, but we're gonna put it in D tier. These things, oh my God, there is always something wrong with the Jordan 4. I've had this happen to me where the rubber sole has just been like, it doesn't feel like getting traction anymore. So now you have to replace not only the midsole, but you have to replace the rubber sole, which good luck, especially if it's like an older pair, because there's almost no older pairs that have the same outsole colorway as a new pair. Like it's bad with Jordan 4s. So now the next part is this is the more time consuming part. These things right here. This is gonna happen to your Jordan 4s, regardless. This will happen, and you cannot avoid it, no matter what you do. And the only way to do it is to buy replacement parts. And while you can find some, like this is a replacement part, you know, this is gonna be useful. Stuff like this. And the worst part is having to take out the old parts and fit these in. I'm not even close to done with like the project I'm working on, which requires me to swap the back tabs and the wing tabs because those also break. Let me just see. Yeah, these also break. So that's even more work. It's even more work. I have a pair of 2006 Mars 4s, and a perfect example. Literally just happened to me this past week. I had these on, and this snapped in not two pieces, not three pieces, but four separate pieces. That's annoying. And yes, I get it. 2006 pair of shoes. It's bound to the shoes at this point is prone to just explode. So fine with that. No big deal. But it's these plastic parts, these damn plastic parts. It is so annoying to fix. If I, I'm moving them to F tier just because of that. I don't like working on these things as much as I like the shoe. I hate working on a pair of Jordan 4s because there's always something that goes wrong. Either the shoe itself has a weird material on the upper, the tabs end up cracking mid restoration because of course the rubber sole is hardened. There's always something with that with the Jordan 4. Feels like it feels like a used BMW of shoes. There's always something wrong. So the next shoe, this is this is gonna be I don't know how Jordans get every retro has a new problem. This is slowly turning into a rant video, but you know, number one, Jordan 5s. Your netting yellows, tough luck. Tough luck. You can't unyellow it. You're gonna have to deal with this. And then it's gonna get to the point where this cracks. The netting just cracks off and flakes off, you know? But you can swap the netting, but guess what you're gonna need? Another pair of Jordan 5s to get the knitting from, you know? This guy right here, Quay Restorations, did an amazing job. But this is a lot of work. I've never done a netting swap because I don't want to. I just don't want to deal with it. Like, I can do it. I know I can. I just don't want to deal with the hassle of you have to cut the stitching right here in this panel, take this out, find a donor netting, glue that in, then stitch this part back, all for this to yellow in a couple years again, and the process repeats. You might see the same shoe that you worked on in about like 10 years, and you're like, oh my God, I remember this, and it's back to give me another hard time. You know, I've been doing this for like around 5 or 6 years, and it's not because my work is horrible, right? I've had a pair of fives, I've worked on a pair of fives, and I've had them come in like three separate times for different issues. Like, first time, it was the midsole crumbling. Simple swap. The hardest thing about a Journey 5 midsole swap is the teeth, painting the teeth, because some of them have a rounded edge for you see these shark teeth, the edges right here. Some of them have a rounded edge, right? And some of them have a really sharp edge. So that the only thing hard is just painting that properly so that it looks factory. That's not the hard part. Then it came back because the soles were hardened. So now it has a brand new midsole, and now the soles are hardened. Sick. And then he told me, he was like, hey, I know you don't do netting swaps, but the netting cracked. I said, no, I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I can't do it anymore with this shoe. I'm gonna move this back up to D tier. I'll put them both D tier. It's about the same. You basically working at this on the same shoe with how many problems? Jordan 6, put it in the middle. Sometimes it's perfect, sometimes it's not. I worked on a pair of white infrared sixes. You know, of course they have the same crumbling issue with the as the fives, the twos, the fours, and future models, of course. Um, but you know, they're pretty simple. They're not like the only part on the back. The only thing that can crack and like flake off is pull tab, pull. These can break off, which is annoying, but it happens. And I will take one part of the shoe just happening to break off. So rather than the entire shoe deciding that it just wants to stop functioning as a shoe, you know? So actually, the Jordan 6, it's okay. I don't mind working on it, but it wouldn't be my first priority. Sevens. I'm working on my second pair of sevens right now. I'm gonna put them in C tier as well because I would say I don't have enough experience with it, whether they're gonna be terrible or not. But so far with the my personal pair of sevens that I'm working on, the tabs on the back, of course, something's always cracking. Something's always cracking on these damn shoes. This part on my pair is already cracking, but it's not flaking off, which, of course, I'm not gonna fix. Because, at the end of the day, it's my personal pair. So I really just like, I can deal with that as long as, I walk down the street and my shoe doesn't spontaneously combust and like fall apart. But these aren't made of polyurethane, so this doesn't crumble. The inside of the shoe actually has the air unit that does crumble, but that's easier to replace. You just have to use something called like EVA foam, or even if you're crazy, you want to just buy another pair of Jordan 7s to take the air unit out. Um, if you like wasting money, you could go do that. But I like I like buying more shoes with that money. So you should probably buy EVA foam and just do the extra work because at the end of the day, EVA foam doesn't deteriorate. So EVA foam has a lot more longevity than the air unit, ironically, even though that's that's Jordan Brand's whole thing. Air. It's crazy how the air doesn't even last 10 years, but we can get into another video. F tier. F tier shoe to work on. I despise this shoe in general, working on it. I had a pair. I remember this so vividly. There was a pair of, where are they? Bugs Bunnies. Bugs Bunnies. It was the mid 2010s retros. I don't know the exact year. I don't want to look up the exact year because I don't want to remember this shoe. I had to. He, my one of my friends sent me this in for a simple reglue. Nothing crazy. I'm halfway through the reglue. The shoe's not clamping together, and I'm wondering why. So one thing about barge cement glue is that it has acetone in it, and acetone can dissolve and eat away at older midsoles. And when I noticed, I'm like, wait a minute, this glue is eating away at the midsole. This thing is about to crumble. And I'm like, great. Now I have to take apart the shoe. I thought, okay, it's no big deal. I can sole swap them. I had to take almost 3 months of my time to fully finish the shoe, and it wasn't perfect, unfortunately, because all of the, I don't know why I'm pointing at this ring, but all of this, the sole and the midsole, I had to completely swap because the plastic part is molded into the midsole. So you have to take everything with you. Then you have to unyellow this. Then you have to repaint it. Then you have to make sure this is flush with the actual shoe because none of the Jordan 8s can just be flush with the actual shape of the shoe because there's always some weird gap. And it's so upsetting because no matter how many times I drumbled the shoe, it would not go away. So I just had to resort to leather filling areas and painting them, which sucked. So I will never work on another pair of Jordan 8s again. Not, not again, but for a long while. Nines, it's gonna go D tier. Top, no, bottom of D tier. I don't like working on nines either. Jordan 9s, of course, had a bad experience with them. Not fun. I was restoring God, I remember this so vividly. Flint Gray. These things right here. I remember restoring them. Or yeah, I remember restoring these things. This was crumbled. I got a pair of donors, and the donors were the same size. However, they didn't fit the sole, and that's a problem. That's very common with nines that I found out the hard way. So now I straight up I've restored pairs of nines. I've done repaints. I don't want to do another soul swap because I straight up was like, okay, this doesn't fit. I'm just gonna sell it. I'm just gonna sell the pair because I'm like $300 deep into this restoration. And I'm just like, I can't do it no more. So I'm good with these nines. And if you notice, once you get past like the seven, I'm not saying the six. Six is okay. But once you get past this one right here, the sevens, it just gets extremely annoying, and then it goes back to normal with the tens, because the tens are just like the sevens. Super simple. All you have to do is most of the times a reglue or even like some leather repaint, but a reglue, uh, swapping out the crumbled air inside because there's also not a polyurethane midsole in them. So you just swap it out with EVA foam and you're good. 11s. I would say top of C tier, just because you know they don't crack, but they're very annoying because you have to deal with patent leather, and patent leather, if you mess it up, you mess it up. There's no fixing it. So the Jordan 11, it has a weird shape. You're not going. I don't know what that does not deserve to be an S tier. Jesus. Jordan 11. No. Jordan 11 has a weird shape. Got a lot of curves. Got a lot of curves in that the patent leather. So you could imagine, for any aspiring people that want to just restore their own shoes and stuff like that, do not start with the Jordan 11. Do not start with anything besides the Jordan 1. I promise you, you're going to end up messing up the shoe, no matter how much research you do. And I'm speaking from experience. Do not start with anything above the Jordan 1. This is not fun. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. It's all about making sure that this original factory line lines up perfectly, and then you should be good to go. And you also have to make sure this foam right here can expand with heat. So do not put excessive amounts of heat. Let's say when you're clamping the glue together, when you're clamping this together, the uppers and the midsoles, do not put too much heat because then this is going to expand and then the line is the factory glue line is not going to be there anymore. And then you're going to almost said that. You're going to be basically out of luck because you can't undo that. You can't undo foam expansion. So never do this shoe first. If you want to buy your Jordan 11s from Amazon, be my guest. You know, that sounds like a good time. Jordan 12s. I just finished working on a pair. I have no complaints. It was very simple, very straightforward. The only part of the Jordan 12s I can crack, it's actually not as noticeable as you would think. Side tabs. Yeah. Okay. Come on. That's all. Okay. You see, these aren't very expensive because they don't take too much 3D printing material. So this part right here can crack, but other than that, it's gonna be a simple reglue. Maybe some repaints on like the snakeskin type texture and the foam. But other than that, you should be straightforward with 12s. If you really want to work on something other than Jordan 1s, I would say the 3s or the 12. I can move this up to 8 tier. I could get behind somebody working on a pair of 12s for their first time. The one thing is, this foam part, similar to the Jordan 11s, can expand. So don't put too much heat on this, because then, once again, you can't go back. You know. Next shoe, 13s. I've worked on a few. Are they? Trying to remember because not a lot of 13s come through the door. Not a lot of people are be like, man, you should restore the 13s that I have. Most people have them as work shoes. Uh, I'll put it top of C tier because it's just like it's a shoe that I don't get often, but when I get it, it's like you tend to forget about them. You tend to be like, oh man, I have to work on those. But when you get to working on them, it's like, all right, they're done. They're simple. I don't have much to say about them because I've gotten maybe like 3 pairs in my 6 years of restoring shoes, and ironically enough, they were all of this colorway, just all of this colorway because people just, it's a nice colorway, but still, like this is the only colorway I've gotten, so could be worse. Could be worse. Maybe there is that one pair of Jordan 13s that's ready to ruin my month when I'm restoring them. 14s, if I were to just go off of my personal preference, S tier. But since we're talking about beginners, F tier. F tier, just straight up F tier. There's too much foam. There's too much foam. Like I'm not the FC 150 guy, but there's just too much foam in this in on this shoe. Can't you heat this up the wrong way, the entire fitment is messed up, and this is all foam. You heat this up all the wrong way, this carbon fiber, this plastic is messed up. You heat the shoe up the wrong way, the upper's messed up. The shoe is just itching to just mess something up. I've had this specific pair. I feel like I went into this with my past videos, but I've had this specific pair. I restored them, and it was a pain, but I enjoyed the process because it was just like, man, there's a lot of complex like stuff I have to do here. I have to make sure the tape job is good. I have to make sure I don't damage the uppers with acetone. I have to make sure the air unit's good. I have to make sure I don't have to replace it with EVA foam. The soles aren't hardened. The uppers are good. So like, it's a difficult shoe, but it's a very rewarding shoe to restore. Unless, you're starting out. Then it's not a fun shoe at all. But overall, am I am I satisfied with this list for like beginners? Yeah, if you're doing this for money, you gotta learn quick. You gotta learn quick if you're doing it for money, because a lot of people are gonna be like, oh, can you restore a pair of Jordan 4s? So like for shoes that come in the most often, ones, fours, threes. Yeah, five's not really actually, yeah. No, these top three are the shoes that you get most often when it comes to restoring. Occasionally you'll get a pair of sixes, or you get a pair of sixes or fives, you know, but that's about it. Like these three are the shoes you're gonna work on the most, and eventually you do so many of these, it's muscle memory. You do so many of these, it's muscle memory. You do so many of these, it's muscle memory. You could do a couple of these, and it's pretty simple, but you don't get a lot of them. You'll be lucky to see any of them. Most people don't really like want to restore these for some reason. Like the most you can do, your most you'll do for people is unyellow them. Like you'll get the occasional like vintage collector that wants to be like, hey, come restore these 11s for me, like full reglue and everything. Sevens, nobody brings these in. Sixes, some once at Blue Moon they'll bring it in. Nines, if you see a pair of nines, maybe you should say no. Like I'm not one to be like, oh, turn away business, but like maybe you should say no to nines. Fives, if it's everything but the netting swap, go for it. But you got to learn how to repaint them shark teeth properly. Twos, say no. Eights, say no. These are not fun, even for somebody with experience. These are not fun. This is not fun. 14s, when you get experience. Once you get experience, it might just be me. I might just be insane, but S tier when you get experience on working on these things, on these 14. They're so fun to work on once you actually get experience. But other than that, that's gonna be the end. That's gonna be the end of the video. Um, I'm pretty satisfied with this list in terms of let me move these back. In terms of beginners restorations, like what shoes to restore. I might do one. I know I'm milking the tier list, but I might do one more for just Nike. Like I want to do it for Air Maxes as well because I love Air Maxes, but not a lot of people work on Air Maxes, so I might do it maybe like on like an off week. It's like, man, I don't know what to do, but I've had this in mind for a while, but I don't know what's it's like if it's another week, it's like, okay, it's time to milk the tier list again. But other than that, that's gonna be about it. Have a good rest of your day whenever you're watching this.